Hey guys, we're back with our last video on Thomas Jefferson, and it's going to be talking about his foreign policy. So the big thing to remember about foreign policy is this statement right here, Embargo of 1807. So we're going to talk in depth about what that means, and that's going to really set us up for our Madison presidency, where we talk all about the War of 1812. So let's talk about challenging U.S. neutrality, which seems to be what everybody wants to do nowadays. All right. By 1805, Europe overall is engulfed in what's called the Napoleonic Wars. So that short little guy Napoleon, who had taken over France, has now spread to taken over Spain, taken over parts of Eastern Europe. Britain is fighting him, trying to make sure that they stay independent. And it's causing a huge migraine for all of us in America. France and Great Britain are still major rivals, and what they're creating is blockades on each other's ports. So if you're France and you're under Napoleon's power, you are sending ships to Britain to try and block their ports. If you are Britain, you are trying to stop anything from coming into France, so Napoleon has no power. So you go and you block everybody's ports in France. We, of course, being Americans and trying not to pick sides, claim neutrality. So Jefferson, like Adams tried to do, like Washington tried to do, claims neutrality. However, France and Britain both do not listen. Say that we have a neutral ship that is going to Britain. We're just doing our regular trade. We're trying to make money for ourselves. We send that ship over. France decided to start confiscating our stuff. So they would stop us, they would take our stuff, they would potentially take our ship, and then go back to France. Britain started to do the same thing. However, they took it to the next level. And when I mean next level, I mean impressment. Impressment is the kidnapping of sailors. Britain had the largest navy in the world still, and they needed more sailors to keep fighting Napoleon. So they started to kidnap our sailors and force them to fight in the British Army. So then out of the two, who are we going to be more mad at? We're going to be more mad at Britain. Because we're more mad at Britain, we're going to play devil's advocate and actually do some help or do some work to help France. We do a little thing called re-exporting. And let me show you my lovely rudimentary drawing of how this works. All right. This is how we re-export. Here is France, here is Britain, and here is us. America is going to pick up cargo that France needs from the French West Indies. The French West Indies is where Haiti is. So that's right off the coast, about 90 miles away from Florida. We go and we pick up supplies from there and we send it back to our country. So we are going to take it one way and give it to us. Then we're going to take those same goods, we are going to put them on American ships, and we are going to send them across back and forth between us and France. And the reason that we're going to do that is so that France can get its supplies from its colonies without having to deal with Britain in the middle trying to stop them. So it's kind of like a sneaky spy way of us to pick up things, make an extra money or make some extra money by getting France to pay for it and sending it to France. This also makes us look neutral because Britain doesn't know that we're doing it. So it just looks like we're still sending neutral ships across the Atlantic, even though we're actually picking up France's stuff to give to France. The positives of this, we actually make 3 times the amount of money in trade because France is paying us to give them their supplies. The negatives is that we are sustaining Napoleon's army, which is making everybody in Europe angry, and then the British find out and they are furious with us. So it only works for a couple of months before it kind of kicks us in the tail, but we do make a little bit of money. Once Britain finds out, Britain wants to punish us. So the way that they punish us is by impressment. They ramp it up. So they are kidnapping more and more of our soldiers and forcing them to fight in the British Navy. The political parties, of course, are going to have their own reactions. Republicans are furious. They point out, how in the world could Britain, our favorite trade partner, steal our own people? The Federalists are like, well, yeah, we probably should do something, but it's an unfortunate cost of doing business. We need to keep trade open because that's the only way we can make money. The president, Jefferson, is torn until we have the final straw drop, which is the Chesapeake Leopard Affair. In 1807, Britain is going to take it a step too far. They are going to have a warship called Leopard ask to board an American warship called the Chesapeake. The reason they asked to board is they are looking for British deserters. Now, if you think to yourself, if I was an English guy in the Navy, how would I disguise myself in America? Simple enough, you just change your accent. So there was a lot of this happening. So the British did not have a total unwarranted need to go on board. However, being Americans and understanding what's going on, we do not have to let Britain on our ships. So the Chesapeake captain for America is going to refuse and say, no, you have no right to come on my ship. And of course, what ends up happening, it ends up being a shoot off. The British are going to open fire on the American ship. They kill 3 Americans, and then they impress 4 sailors into the British Navy. So this is our final straw. This is where we look to the president and say, what in the world are you going to do about this issue? Jefferson has pretty much had it up to here with both France and Britain and the disrespect to our neutrality. So he is going to call for what's called an embargo. It's our way of trying economic diplomacy. We do not want to go to war because if you remember, Jefferson actually cut down the Army and the Navy because we were not in a time of war, so we didn't need to spend the money. We are going to try economic diplomacy and issue the embargo, which is a government ban on trade. It's called the Embargo Act of 1807. We do not just aim this at the 2 countries causing us problems, though. We are going to ban any foreign trade with, any foreign nation. So I want you to think about that for a second in today's terms. Think if the United States wanted to do an embargo with all foreign countries. Look at your shirt that you're wearing. Look at the shoes that you're wearing, if you're even wearing shoes. I'm not wearing shoes. Look at the stuff that you have around you. How much of that stuff is actually American made? Most of you are going to point out, ooh, almost none of it is. So if we did an embargo with foreign countries today, we would all be screwed and not have any stuff. It's not too different back then because remember, America's just getting started. Trade is their biggest way to make money and bring it into the country. So while he was trying to prove neutrality and say, hey, foreign countries, listen to us and respect us, he's going to end up hurting a lot of American businesses. We are actually going to hurt ourselves more than France and Britain because France and Britain still have colonies. If you think back to world history and look at the map of Africa, you had France and Britain owning all of those different places in Africa. You had Britain still owning India, so they could just switch right on over to India and get the same kind of stuff they were getting from America without having to really worry about it. Our exports are going to drop from 108 million a year to 22 million a year. New England, the northern states, actually get so angry that they threaten to secede. That means to leave. So they're thinking about breaking away and honestly making their own country because they were like, what the heck is happening? I can't make any money. Jefferson's going to end up being forced to repeal the Embargo Act in 1809 just so that he can save his political party from complete ruin. Like everybody's jumping ship. Nobody wants to be a Republican because of how bad this was for the economy. So he's going to lift the ban. And when Madison becomes president after him, he's really going to instill what's called the Non-Intercourse Act. And what that means is what's written right here in green. We're going to be allowed to eventually trade with all countries except for Britain and France. So Jefferson and the Embargo Act, intentions were there to save the United States and make us feel respected. Did not go in the way that we wanted it to. The reactions, the Embargo Act is what's really going to push Jefferson to not seek a 3rd term. So he, like Washington, is going to voluntarily step down after he serves, and he's going to retire back to his state home in Monticello. His Secretary of State, James Madison, is going to step up to the plate, run for election, and be elected in 1808 after him. The legacy of Jefferson's presidency, and this is where we'll stop with Jefferson, In synopsis, he did the Louisiana Purchase, which is awesome. We got to double our nation. It was a hypocrisy because he used the elastic clause to actually buy that land. We had Marbury versus Madison, where we give the Supreme Court balanced power with the other federal powers. They get the power of judicial review. But he is going to cut down on the federal powers a little bit as well. He's going to make the presidency more casual. So whereas Washington and Adams were a little bit more stiff, he's going to be a little more relaxed. He's not going to have as many government employees. He's not going to have a big of an army or navy. He does reduce the national debt, and he does believe in strict interpretation, of course, when it's convenient. When you're offered a lot of land, it's hard to do no elastic clause. We'll end with Jefferson right here. I predict future happiness for Americans if they can prevent the government from wasting the labors of the people under the pretense of taking care of them. All in all, don't let the federal government have too much power. We'll see what we can do as people. All right, that's going to be it for our Jefferson lesson. Make sure that you've written down any questions that you have, and I will make sure that I try to answer them in the Q&A that we have set up. Thanks for listening.